She crawled for help after her village burned. The Apache warrior found her in the ashes. The sun rose slowly over the valley, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The air smelled of warm earth and dry grass. In the quiet morning, the village looked calm and peaceful. The people were already awake, moving around with purpose. They carried baskets of food, water, and small tools. Children ran through the paths, laughing and playing. Some elders sat outside their homes, talking quietly and watching the day begin. In the middle of the village lived a young woman named Micah. She was not very tall, but she had strong arms and a steady spirit. Her hair was long and dark, and she always wore a simple dress made from soft cloth. Micah was known in the village for her kindness. She helped everyone. She cared for children, brought water to the elders, and helped prepare meals. People trusted her because she was calm and brave. She never gave up even when things were hard. Micah's family lived in a small home made of wood and clay. It was not large, but it was warm and full of love. Her mother, Asha, was gentle and wise. Her father, Kimo, was a quiet man who worked hard to provide for the family. Micah also had a little brother named Sani. He was only 8 years old, and he loved to follow Micah everywhere. He looked up to her like she was a hero. Micah loved her village. She loved the way the wind moved through the trees, the sound of birds in the morning, and the smell of food cooking over the fire. She loved the way the people helped each other. Everyone in the village had a job, and they all worked together like a big family. The village was not large, but it was full of life. The days were not always easy. The land was dry and the water was not always enough. Sometimes the village did not have enough food. The people had to work hard to survive, but they never complained. They believed in taking care of each other. That belief was the strongest thing in their village. Micah often walked outside the village to gather herbs. The hills around the village were full of plants that could heal sickness. Micah learned from the elders which plants were safe and which were not. She liked walking in the hills because it made her feel free. She could breathe in the fresh air and feel the sun on her skin. Sometimes she would bring her little brother with her. He loved to watch her gather plants, and he asked many questions. Micah would answer him with patience and a smile. One morning, Micah woke up earlier than usual. She felt a strange quiet in the air. The birds were not singing as loudly as they usually did. The village seemed calm, but the calm felt different. Micah could not explain it. She felt a small fear inside her, but she tried to ignore it. She did not want to worry anyone. Micah walked to the river to collect water. The water was clear and cold. She filled her clay jar and looked at her reflection in the water. She saw her face and her eyes. She saw a young woman who was strong and kind. She thought about her family and her village. She felt a deep love for them. She wanted to protect them. She wanted to keep them safe. As she walked back to the village, she saw her mother talking to an elder near the fire. Her mother looked worried. Micah's heart felt heavy. She hurried to them and asked, "What is wrong, mother?" Her mother looked at her and tried to smile. "Nothing, my child," she said. "It is just a small worry. We will be fine." Micah knew her mother was not telling the whole truth. She could see it in her eyes. Micah felt a strange feeling again, like a storm was coming. She wanted to ask more, but she did not want to scare her mother. She decided to stay calm and continue with her day. The village was busy. People were preparing food, fixing homes, and working in the fields. Micah helped her mother and the other women. She carried baskets of corn and beans. She helped cook over the fire. She laughed with her friends and tried to keep the mood light. She did not want anyone to feel scared. As the day moved on, Micah saw some men from the village talking in a small group. They looked serious. Their faces were tight, like they were thinking about something heavy. Micah walked closer and listened. She heard words like danger, soldiers, and settlers. She did not understand everything, but she knew it was not good. One of the men noticed Micah standing nearby. He nodded at her and said, "Micah, we need to talk to the elders." "It is not safe to stay here forever." Micah felt a chill. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Is something going to happen?" The man sighed. "We do not know," he said, "but we have heard stories. The world is changing. People are coming closer. We must be careful." Micah's mind began to race. She remembered stories from the elders about other villages, stories about homes being taken away and families being forced to leave. She had heard these stories before, but she had never believed they would come to her village. She thought her village was safe. She thought they were far away from all that. Now she realized how wrong she had been. That night the village gathered around a large fire. The elders spoke quietly. They talked about what they had heard. They talked about what they should do. Some people wanted to leave the village and find a safer place. Others wanted to stay and protect their home. The argument was not loud, but it was tense. Everyone was worried. Everyone was afraid. Micah sat with her family. Her mother held her hand. Her father sat close, looking at the fire. Micah's little brother, Sanny, tried to smile, but his eyes were wide with fear. He did not understand everything, but he knew something was wrong. Micah looked at the elders and listened carefully. She wanted to know what was going to happen. She wanted to know if they would be safe. She wanted to know if she would still have a home. The elders finally made a decision. They decided to stay. They believed their village was strong. They believed they could protect themselves. They believed that leaving would be like admitting defeat. They believed that if they stayed together, they could survive anything. Micah felt a mix of relief and worry. She was relieved because she did not want to leave her home. She loved her village. She loved her family. She loved everything about their life, but she was also worried because she knew that staying could be dangerous. That night, Micah went asleep, but she could not rest. Her mind was filled with thoughts. She kept thinking about the words she had heard. Danger, soldiers, settlers. She kept thinking about the feeling she had earlier in the day, the strange quiet, the birds not singing. She tried to calm herself. She told herself that everything would be okay. She told herself that her village was strong. She told herself that her family was safe. She told herself that she had nothing to fear. But she could not stop thinking about what might happen. The next morning, the sun rose again. The village looked the same. The children played, the elders spoke, the women prepared food. The men went out to check the land. Everything looked normal, but the feeling of fear was still there. Micah decided to go out to the hills to gather herbs. She thought that if she was busy, she would not have time to think about the fear. She thought that if she did something useful, she would feel better. She walked through the path that led to the hills. The air was cool and fresh. The grass was tall. The sky was clear. She felt a small peace. She thought that maybe everything would be okay. As she walked, she noticed a strange smell in the air. It was not the smell of herbs or flowers. It was a sharp smell like smoke. She stopped and looked around. She did not see any fire. She did not see any smoke, but the smell was there. Micah's heart began to beat faster. She knew the smell. She had smelled it before. It was the smell of burning wood. She looked toward the village. She saw a thin line of smoke rising in the distance. Her heart sank. She began to run. She ran as fast as she could toward the village. Her legs moved quickly, but her mind felt heavy. She was scared. She did not know what she would find. She did not know if her family was safe. She did not know if her home was still there. When she reached the village, she saw the fire. The flames were tall. The smoke was thick. The village was burning. People were running everywhere. Some were carrying children. Some were trying to save their homes. Some were trying to put out the fire. The air was filled with screams and shouts. The sound of the fire was loud. The smell was strong. Micah's heart felt like it was breaking. She looked for her family. She called out their names. "Mother, Father, Sanny," she shouted. Her voice was lost in the chaos. She ran toward her home, but the flames were too strong. The heat was intense. She could feel the fire on her skin. She could see her home burning. She could see her mother's clay pot breaking in the flames. She could see the smoke rising from her father's tools. Micah felt a deep pain inside her. She felt like the world was falling apart. She wanted to cry, but she could not. She wanted to scream, but she could not. She wanted to run, but she did not know where to go. She looked around again. She saw a group of people running toward the river. She saw others running into the hills. She saw a small group of warriors standing together. They looked ready to protect the village. Micah knew she had to move. She knew she had to survive. She knew she had to find her family. She knew she had to keep going, no matter what. She turned away from the fire and ran toward the river. She hoped that her family was there. She hoped that they were safe. She hoped that they were still alive. But as she ran, she felt something hit her leg. She fell to the ground. Pain shot through her body. She looked down and saw that she had been burned by a piece of falling wood. She tried to stand, but the pain was too strong. She fell again. Micah looked up at the burning village. She saw the smoke rising. She saw the flames dancing. She saw her home disappearing. She felt a deep sadness, but she also felt a small spark of hope. She knew that she had to survive. She knew that she had to find help. She crawled toward the river, one slow movement at a time. The ground was hot. The ash burned her hands. She felt weak. She felt scared. But she kept moving. She thought about her family. She thought about her village. She thought about the people she loved. She thought about the life she had known. She did not know what would happen next. But she knew one thing. She would not give up. Micah crawled slowly across the hot ground, leaving a small trail of ash behind her. The fire had already taken her home and everything she knew. The air was thick with smoke, and her lungs burned with every breath. Her skin felt tight and painful from the burns. She tried to move, but her body was weak. Every small movement caused sharp pain, yet she kept going because she knew that stopping would mean giving up. She looked around and saw people running in all directions. Some were carrying children, some were carrying small bags, some were helping elders who could not walk fast. The village was full of chaos, but there was also a strange sense of unity. Even in the middle of the disaster, people were helping each other. They were not thinking only about themselves. They were thinking about the whole village. Micah tried to call out again, but her voice was weak. She shouted, "Mother, Father, Sanny." Her voice was swallowed by the noise of the fire. She could not see her family anywhere. She did not know if they were safe. She did not know if they were still alive. She continued crawling toward the river. She knew that water could help cool her burns even a little. She also knew that water could help her survive. The river was the only place that felt safe right now. The river was the only place that felt calm. The ground became cooler as she moved closer to the water. The smoke started to fade. The air felt a little cleaner. She could hear the sound of the river. It was a soft, steady sound like a quiet song. Micah felt a small relief. She thought that maybe she would be safe soon, but then she felt something strange. She heard a sound behind her. It was not the sound of the fire. It was not the sound of people running. It was a sound like footsteps. Someone was walking near her. Micah turned her head slowly and saw a man standing a short distance away. The man was an Apache warrior. His face was calm and serious. He was dressed in traditional clothing, and he carried a small bag on his back. His eyes were focused. He looked like someone who had seen many difficult things. He did not look scared. He looked determined. Micah felt a mix of fear and hope. She did not know if this man was there to help her or to harm her. She had heard stories about warriors and battles. She had heard stories about people who could be dangerous. She had heard stories that made her afraid. But she also knew that this man was one of her people. He was part of the same world. He was part of the same land. He had the same blood in his veins. He had the same history. Micah tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. "Please help," she said. The warrior looked at her carefully. He could see her burns and her pain. He could see the fear in her eyes. He could see that she was weak. He did not say anything at first. He just watched her. Then he moved closer. He crouched down beside her. He looked at her injuries. He could see that she needed water, and he could see that she needed a safe place to rest. He knew that the fire had taken everything from her. He knew that she had no home now. The warrior spoke softly. "You are not alone," he said. "I will help you." Micah felt tears in her eyes. She did not cry yet, but her eyes were wet. She felt a small wave of relief. She felt like someone finally cared. She felt like someone finally saw her. The warrior gently lifted her. He did not use force. He used care. He supported her body and moved slowly so that he did not cause more pain. Micah felt the warmth of his hands. She felt the strength in his arms. She felt a small hope returning to her. The warrior carried Micah toward the river. The water was close now. Micah could see it shining in the sunlight. She could feel the cool air coming from it. She could smell the fresh water. She could feel her body becoming a little calmer. When they reached the river, the warrior carefully lowered Micah to the ground. He took off his bag and pulled out a small cloth. He dipped the cloth in the water and gently placed it on Micah's burns. The water cooled her skin a little. The pain did not disappear, but it became easier to bear. Micah closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the cool water on her skin. She felt the gentle touch of the warrior. She felt the sound of the river. For a brief moment, she felt safe. The warrior looked around. He wanted to make sure there was no danger. He wanted to make sure that no one else was coming. He wanted to make sure that Micah was protected. He saw a small group of people nearby. They were also survivors. They had managed to escape the fire. Some were injured. Some were tired, some were crying. The warrior walked toward them and spoke quietly. "We need to move," he said. "We need to find a safe place." The survivors looked at him. They were tired and scared. They did not know what to do. They had lost their homes. They had lost their belongings. They had lost their sense of safety. The warrior continued. "We will go to the hills," he said. "There is a hidden place where we can rest. We can stay there until the fire is gone." The survivors nodded. They trusted the warrior. They knew that he had experience. They knew that he had led them before. They knew that he could help them. Micah listened to the conversation. She felt a small hope again. She felt like maybe she would survive. She felt like maybe her family would survive. She felt like maybe there was still a future. The warrior turned back to Micah. He spoke softly. "Can you stand?" he asked. Micah tried to move her body. The pain was strong. She felt weak. She looked at the warrior and shook her head. "I cannot," she whispered. The warrior nodded. He understood. He knew that her burns were serious. He knew that she needed time to rest. He knew that she needed healing. He looked around again. He saw a large tree near the river. The tree had strong branches and wide leaves. It could provide shade. It could provide a place to rest. The warrior decided to bring Micah there. He lifted her gently and carried her toward the tree. The survivors followed him, carrying their children and belongings. They moved slowly because the path was rough. The ground was covered in ash and small pieces of burned wood. The air was still smoky. The sun was bright, but the heat felt less strong near the river. When they reached the tree, the warrior placed Micah down carefully. He made a small bed of leaves and soft grass. He covered her with a cloth to protect her from the sun. He sat beside her and watched her carefully. He wanted to make sure she was okay. Micah looked at the warrior. She felt a deep gratitude. She wanted to thank him, but she did not have the strength. She just looked at him with her eyes. Her eyes said everything. The warrior spoke softly again. "Rest," he said. "You will be safe here." Micah nodded slowly. She closed her eyes. She tried to sleep, but her mind was still active. She kept thinking about her family. She kept thinking about her village. She kept thinking about everything she had lost. But she also thought about the warrior. She thought about his kindness. She thought about his calm voice. She thought about the way he had carried her. She thought about the way he had taken care of her. Micah felt a small warmth in her heart. She felt a small sense of hope. She felt like maybe she was not alone after all. As the day moved on, the survivors began to settle near the river. Some made small shelters with branches and cloth. Some collected food from the land. Some helped the injured. The warrior stayed close to Micah. He watched her and made sure she had water. He checked her burns and made sure they were not getting worse. Micah watched the survivors. She saw how people were helping each other. She saw how they were working together. She saw how they were staying strong. She realized that even though the village was gone, the people were still alive. The spirit of the village was still alive. Micah felt a small smile on her face. She felt a small strength inside her. She knew that she had to keep going. She knew that she had to stay alive. She knew that she had to find her family. The warrior noticed the small smile. He nodded slightly. He understood. He knew that Micah was strong. He knew that she had a brave heart. He knew that she would survive. That night the survivors sat near the river and shared what they had. They talked quietly. They told stories. They remembered the village. They remembered the people they had lost. They remembered the life they had before. Micah listened to the stories. She felt a deep sadness, but she also felt a connection. She felt like she was part of something bigger. She felt like she was part of a family. She felt like she was not alone. The warrior sat beside her. He did not speak much. He simply watched the river and the people. He seemed to be thinking about something. He seemed to be thinking about the future. Micah looked at him and asked softly, "What will happen now?" The warrior looked at her and replied, "We will survive. We will rebuild. We will not forget." Micah nodded. She closed her eyes. She listened to the sound of the river. She felt the cool air on her skin. She felt the warmth of the warrior's presence. She did not know what the future held. She did not know if she would find her family. She did not know if she would ever return to her village. But she knew one thing. She was still alive. And that was the first step toward a new beginning. Days passed slowly, but they were full of small moments that mattered. The survivors stayed near the river in the shade of the trees. They made small shelters from branches, leaves, and cloth. They shared food, water, and stories. Everyone tried to help each other. The village was gone, but the people were still together, and that mattered. Micah stayed close to the tree where she had been resting. Her burns were slowly healing, but she still felt pain. She could not walk yet. She could not do much. She felt frustrated because she wanted to help, but her body was weak. She wanted to do something useful, but she could not. The warrior, whose name was Taza, stayed near her. He brought water and herbs. He gently cleaned her wounds and wrapped them carefully. He spoke softly and calmly. He told her that healing takes time. He told her that she should not rush. Micah listened to him. She trusted him. She felt safe with him. She felt like he was not only a warrior, but also a guardian. She felt like he cared about her as a person, not just as a survivor. One morning, Micah woke up to the sound of laughter. She opened her eyes and saw children playing near the river. They were throwing small stones into the water. They were trying to make the biggest splash. Their laughter was bright and pure. It sounded like a small song. Micah felt a small smile on her face. She realized that even after such a terrible event, life was still happening. The children were still alive. They were still laughing. They were still playing. Micah watched them for a while. Then she looked around and saw that the survivors were working. Some were collecting food, some were gathering firewood, some were making tools, some were making small baskets. Everyone was busy. Everyone was trying to build something new. Micah wanted to help. She wanted to be part of the work. She wanted to feel useful. She looked at Taza and asked, "Can I do something? Can I help?" Taza looked at her and smiled gently. "You will help when you are ready," he said. "Right now you need to heal." Micah nodded, but she still felt a small sadness. She wanted to do more. She wanted to show that she was strong. She wanted to prove that she could survive. As the day went on, Taza left to speak with the elders. He walked away with a serious expression. Micah watched him go. She wondered what he was talking about. She wondered if they were planning something. She wondered if they were thinking about leaving the area. Micah tried to rest, but her mind was active. She thought about her family. She thought about her home. She thought about the life she had before the fire. She tried to remember every detail. She tried to remember the smell of her mother's cooking. She tried to remember the sound of her father's voice. She tried to remember the way her brother used to laugh. She felt tears in her eyes. She did not cry yet. She did not want to cry. She wanted to be strong. She wanted to be brave, but the memories were strong. The pain was deep. She felt like her heart was heavy. Suddenly, she heard a voice nearby. It was an elder woman. Her name was Naya. She was a wise woman known for her stories and her knowledge. Naya sat beside Micah and looked at her with kind eyes. "Micah," Naya said softly, "you are not alone. We are here with you." Micah looked at Naya and nodded. "I know," she said. "But I feel like I lost everything." Naya placed her hand gently on Micah's shoulder. "You did not lose everything," she said. "You still have your life, you still have your spirit, you still have your people." Micah listened to Naya's words. She tried to believe them. She tried to feel the truth in them, but it was difficult. The pain was still there. The sadness was still there. The loss was still there. Naya continued, "We will rebuild. It will take time, but we will rebuild. The fire took our homes, but it did not take our hearts." Micah looked at Naya and felt a small warmth in her chest. She felt a small hope. She felt like maybe she could survive after all. That night, the survivors gathered around a small fire. The fire was not big, but it was enough to keep them warm. The elders spoke quietly. They talked about what had happened. They talked about the future. They talked about the possibility of finding a new place to live. Micah listened carefully. She wanted to know what they would do. She wanted to know if they would stay near the river or move to the hills. She wanted to know if they would find a new home. Taza spoke to the group. His voice was calm but firm. "We cannot stay here forever," he said. "The fire has changed the land. The river may not be safe for long. We need to find a new place." An elder man spoke up. "But where will we go?" he asked. "We do not know the land beyond this valley. We do not know what dangers we might face." Taza nodded. "I know," he said, "but we have to try. We have to keep moving. We have to keep our people safe." The group fell silent. The night was quiet. The only sound was the fire and the wind. Micah listened to the conversation. She felt a mix of fear and hope. She was afraid of leaving. She was afraid of the unknown. She was afraid of losing more. She was afraid of being alone, but she also felt hope. She felt hope because she knew that the people were still together. She felt hope because she knew that Taza was there. She felt hope because she knew that the elders were wise. Micah looked at the fire. She watched the flames dance. She thought about her village. She thought about the homes. She thought about the people. She thought about the life that was lost. She felt a deep sadness, but she also felt a deep determination. She decided that she would not let the fire destroy her spirit. She decided that she would keep going. She decided that she would survive. The next morning, Taza came to her and said, "We are leaving today." Micah's heart skipped a beat. She looked at him and asked, "Where will we go?" Taza looked at her with a serious expression. "We will go to the hills," he said. "There is a hidden place where we can stay. It is safe. It is away from the fire. We will rest there. We will plan our next steps." Micah nodded slowly. She felt a mix of fear and hope. She knew that moving would be difficult. She knew that she would have to travel. She knew that her body was still weak. She knew that she would have to rely on others. But she also knew that staying was not an option. The fire had taken everything. She had to move forward. The survivors began to prepare. They packed what little they had. They gathered food. They collected water. They tied their belongings to sticks and carried them on their backs. They helped the injured. They helped the elders. Micah watched them. She felt a small sense of pride. She felt proud of her people. She felt proud of their strength. She felt proud of their unity. Taza came to her again. He gently helped her stand. He supported her body. He held her arm. He guided her slowly. Micah felt the pain, but she also felt the strength. She took her first steps after the fire. She felt shaky. She felt weak. But she took the steps anyway. The group began to move. They walked slowly in a line. The children walked in the middle. The elders walked with support. The warriors walked around them, watching for danger. The women carried the food and water. Everyone worked together. Micah looked back at the river one last time. She saw the smoke in the distance. She saw the land that had been her home. She felt a deep sadness, but she also felt a deep determination. She knew that she was leaving her past behind. She knew that she was stepping into a new future. As they moved toward the hills, the landscape changed. The ground became rocky. The trees became taller. The air became cooler. The path became harder. The journey was not easy, but the survivors kept moving. Micah walked slowly, supported by Taza. She looked at the hills. She wondered what the future would bring. She wondered if she would ever find her family. She wondered if she would ever have a home again, but she kept moving because she had no other choice. And because she had hope, the journey into the hills was harder than Micah expected. The ground was uneven and rocky. The air was cooler, but the wind was stronger. The path was narrow in some places, and the survivors had to move carefully. The children held hands to stay together. The elders moved slowly with support from others. Everyone had to be careful so no one fell or got hurt. Micah walked with Taza beside her. He supported her and helped her keep her balance. Her burns were healing, but her body was still weak. Her legs still hurt when she walked. She felt tired, but she kept going. She did not want to fall behind. She did not want to slow the group down. As they walked, Micah looked around at the hills. The landscape was beautiful in a quiet way. The hills were covered with green plants and tall trees. The sky was wide and open. The sun shone brightly and the air smelled fresh. Micah felt a small sense of peace. She realized that even though she had lost her village, the world was still full of beauty. But she also felt a deep sadness. She missed her home. She missed her family. She missed the familiar sounds and smells. She missed the feeling of safety. She missed the life she had known. She tried to think about something else. She tried to focus on the present. She tried to focus on the people walking beside her. She tried to focus on the fact that they were still alive. She tried to focus on the fact that they were still together. The group walked for many hours. They stopped sometimes to rest. They drank water and ate small pieces of food. They shared what they had. They cared for each other. They encouraged each other. They spoke softly. They did not want to waste energy. During one of the rest breaks, Micah sat down on a rock. She looked at the ground and saw small plants growing between the stones. She realized that life could grow even in the hardest places. She felt a small sense of hope. Taza sat beside her. He looked at her and said, "You are doing well, you are strong." Micah looked at him and smiled weakly. "I am trying," she said. Taza nodded. "That is enough," he said. "Trying is the first step." Micah listened to his words. She felt a small warmth in her chest. She felt like she was not alone. She felt like someone believed in her. The journey continued. The group walked deeper into the hills. The path became steeper. The air became cooler. The trees became denser. The sound of the river faded away. The survivors could no longer see the place they had left behind. The memory of the village became distant like a dream. But the memory was still there. It was always in Micah's mind. It was always in her heart. She could not forget the fire. She could not forget the loss. She could not forget the pain. One evening, as the sun began to set, the group reached a small clearing in the hills. The clearing was surrounded by trees. It was quiet and safe. The ground was soft. The air was calm. The place felt like a hidden shelter. Taza looked around and nodded. "This is the place," he said. "We will stay here for a while." The survivors began to set up their camp. They made small shelters from branches and leaves. They made a fire for warmth. They gathered food. They collected water from a small stream nearby. They worked together just like they had near the river. Micah watched them. She felt a small sense of relief. She felt like they were safe for now. She felt like they could rest. That night, the survivors sat around the fire. They ate a small meal, they talked quietly, they shared stories, they laughed softly. The sound of laughter felt like a small gift. It felt like a reminder that life could still be joyful. Micah sat near the fire. She felt the warmth on her face. She looked at the flames. She thought about the village. She thought about her family. She thought about the future. She wondered what would happen next. She wondered if they would find a new home. She wondered if she would ever feel safe again. She wondered if she would ever feel happy again. Taza sat beside her. He looked at her and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Micah hesitated. She did not want to share everything. She did not want to show her fear. She did not want to seem weak. But she also knew that she could trust Taza. He had helped her. He had cared for her. He had stayed by her side. She took a deep breath and said, "I keep thinking about my family. I keep thinking about my home. I keep thinking about everything I lost." Taza listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He simply listened. After a moment, he spoke softly. "It is okay to feel sad," he said. "It is okay to miss your home. It is okay to miss your family. You have been through a lot." Micah nodded. She felt tears in her eyes. She tried to hold them back, but they fell anyway. She felt the sadness release from her body. She felt the pain become lighter. Taza put his hand gently on her shoulder. "You are not alone," he said. "We are here. We will help each other." Micah looked at him and felt a small smile. She felt a small sense of comfort. She felt like maybe she could heal, not just physically, but emotionally too. As the days passed in the hidden camp, the survivors began to adjust to their new life. They made routines. They worked together. They took care of each other. They began to feel a small sense of normalcy. Micah's burns continued to heal. Her body grew stronger. She began to walk without help. She began to help with small tasks. She helped gather food. She helped prepare meals. She helped care for the children. She felt useful again. One day, Micah noticed that the survivors were talking about something. They were speaking in low voices, like they were planning something important. She walked closer to listen. Taza was speaking to the elders. "We should send a group to look for other survivors," he said. "We should find out if there are other villages that are safe. We should find a place where we can live." An elder woman nodded. "But we must be careful," she said. "We must not rush. We must not go too far. We must protect our people." Taza agreed. "We will be careful," he said. "We will only go as far as needed." Micah listened to the conversation. She felt a small hope. She felt like there was a future. She felt like there was a possibility of finding a new home. She felt like she could rebuild her life. That night, Micah lay on her bed of leaves and stared at the sky. The stars were bright. The sky was clear. She thought about the future. She thought about the possibility of finding a new home. She thought about the possibility of finding her family. She also thought about the fire. She thought about the village. She thought about the people who were lost. She thought about the memories that would always stay with her. Micah realized something important. She realized that she could not change the past. She could not bring back her village. She could not bring back her family. But she could choose how she would live now. She could choose to keep going. She could choose to be strong. She could choose to be brave. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I will not give up." The next morning, the group prepared for the journey. A small group of warriors and adults volunteered to go and search for other survivors. Taza was one of them. Micah watched them leave. She felt a mix of fear and hope. She prayed that they would return safely. She prayed that they would find a safe place. As the group disappeared into the hills, Micah stood near the camp and looked at the sky. She felt a small sense of courage. She felt a small sense of purpose. She realized that she was not only surviving for herself. She was surviving for her people. She was surviving for the future. She looked at the children playing nearby. She saw their laughter. She saw their joy. She saw their hope. She felt a deep love for them. She felt a deep responsibility. Micah knew that her journey was not over. She knew that the future was still unknown. But she also knew that she had found something important. She had found a new family, and she had found a new reason to live. The days passed slowly in the hidden camp. The survivors worked together and adjusted to their new life. They gathered food, collected water, and built stronger shelters. Everyone helped each other. Even though they had lost their village, they were alive, and that gave them hope. Micah grew stronger every day. Her burns had healed, and her body no longer ached. She could walk and move freely, and she began helping others with small tasks. She carried water, gathered herbs, and helped the children learn songs and stories from the elders. Micah found joy in the small things. The morning sun on her face, the sound of birds, and the soft wind in the trees made her feel alive. She watched the children play and realized that life could still be beautiful, even after great loss. The laughter of the children reminded her of her brother, Sanny. She thought about him every day. She hoped he had survived the fire and wondered where he might be now. Every night she would pray quietly, asking the stars to watch over her family wherever they were. One morning, Taza returned from the hills with a small group of warriors and elders. Micah ran toward him as soon as she saw him. Her heart was pounding. She hoped he would bring good news. Taza smiled gently at her. "We found other survivors," he said. "We also found a safe place for everyone to stay. The land is fertile, the river is clean, and the area is protected by the hills. We can rebuild here." Micah's eyes filled with tears. Relief and joy filled her heart. For the first time since the fire, she felt hope. She felt like a future was possible. She wanted to thank Taza, but words could not express all she felt. She simply hugged him, holding on tightly. He held her back carefully, letting her release the weight of the past months. The survivors began to prepare for the journey to the new place. They packed what little belongings they had. They made sure the children were safe and the elders were comfortable. Everyone worked together. Micah helped as much as she could. She carried small bags of food, helped guide the children, and encouraged those who were tired. As they walked through the hills toward the new land, Micah felt a mixture of emotions. She felt sadness for the village she had lost. She felt fear of the unknown. She felt hope for the new life ahead. She looked around at the hills, the trees, and the open sky, and she realized how big the world was. She realized how many possibilities existed beyond the land she had known. The journey was not easy. The hills were steep and the paths were narrow. The children became tired and some of the elders needed support. But everyone worked together. They encouraged one another. They shared food, water, and stories. They sang songs to lift their spirits. Micah joined in, teaching the children old songs from her village. The songs reminded them of the life they had lost, but also gave them strength to continue. After several days, they reached the new land. It was beautiful and peaceful. The hills provided protection, and the river flowed with clear, fresh water. The land was full of plants, animals, and fertile soil. It felt safe. It felt like a place where they could begin again. Micah could hardly believe her eyes. She had feared that the world had nothing left for her, but now she saw that there was a chance for a new life. The survivors began to build their new homes. They worked together to clear the land, gather materials, and construct shelters. Micah helped in every way she could. She taught the children about herbs and plants. She shared her knowledge of healing and cared for those who were still weak or sick. She felt useful again, and that made her heart feel lighter. During the day, Micah would walk near the river. She would watch the water sparkle in the sunlight and listen to the sound of the current. She would pick small flowers and plants, marveling at how life could thrive even after destruction. She would talk softly to herself, sharing her hopes and dreams for the future. She thought about finding her family. She thought about the village that had been lost. She thought about the life she wanted to create here. One evening, as the sun set over the hills, Micah was walking along a small path when she saw a figure in the distance. Her heart skipped a beat. She ran closer, and as she got nearer, she recognized the face. It was Sanny, her little brother. He was safe, healthy, and smiling. He had survived the fire and had been taken in by a neighboring group of survivors. Micah dropped to her knees and embraced him tightly. Sanny held her back just as tightly, his eyes shining with tears. They laughed and cried at the same time. It was a moment of pure joy. The fire had taken many things, but it had not taken their bond. They were together again. After that, Micah continued to help rebuild the new settlement. She worked tirelessly, guided by hope and love. She shared her story with the children and taught them lessons from the past. She told them about courage, kindness, and the importance of helping others. She wanted the next generation to grow up strong, wise, and caring. Taza became a mentor and friend. He taught the young warriors about responsibility, courage, and the importance of protecting others. He guided Micah and the other survivors with wisdom and patience. Under his leadership, the settlement grew stronger and more organized. Micah learned from him not only about survival, but also about leadership, patience, and resilience. As months passed, the new settlement began to flourish. The survivors planted crops, built homes, and created a community where everyone worked together. Children laughed and played. Elders shared stories and wisdom. Adults worked and taught the young ones. Micah and Sanny finally felt a sense of belonging and peace. Micah often thought about the past, but the memories of the fire no longer made her feel broken. Instead, they reminded her of her strength and her courage. They reminded her that even in the darkest times, hope could be found. She realized that life is fragile, but it is also resilient. She realized that even after loss, it is possible to grow, to heal, and to build something beautiful. One morning, Micah climbed a small hill near the settlement and looked out over the land. The sun was rising, casting golden light over the trees, the river, and the new homes. She felt a deep gratitude for everything she had. She was grateful for life. She was grateful for her brother. She was grateful for Taza and the other survivors. She was grateful for the chance to start over. Micah knelt on the grass and whispered a small prayer. She thanked the stars for guiding them. She thanked the land for giving them a safe place. She thanked her spirit for staying strong through the hardest moments. She promised herself that she would continue to live bravely, with love, courage, and hope. Years passed and the settlement grew. Children became adults and the adults became elders. The people remembered the old village and the fire, but they also celebrated the new life they had built. They shared stories of courage, survival, and unity. Micah became a respected leader and teacher in the community. She shared her wisdom and her experiences, helping everyone remember that even in the hardest times, hope and love could guide them. Micah and Sanny stayed close, supporting each other through every challenge. They laughed, played, and shared stories. They celebrated every harvest, every festival, and every small joy that life brought. They never forgot the fire, but they also never forgot the strength and courage that had allowed them to survive. One day, as Micah watched the children play near the river, she felt a deep peace. She realized that life had given her a second chance. She realized that even after loss, it was possible to find joy, love, and belonging again. She smiled, knowing that the journey had made her stronger, wiser, and more grateful for every moment. Micah understood that life is full of unexpected challenges, but it is also full of beauty and hope. She knew that even when the past is painful, the future can still be bright. She knew that love, courage, and unity could heal the deepest wounds. And as the sun set over the hills, Micah looked out over the settlement she had helped rebuild and felt truly at home. She had survived the fire, found her family, and discovered the strength within herself. She knew that no matter what happened in the future, she and her people could face it together. The story of Micah's courage, resilience, and hope became a part of the settlement's history. Her life became a story told to every child, a story of survival, love, and the power of the human spirit. The settlement thrived, and the people grew stronger, guided by the lessons Micah had learned. And in the quiet moments when the sun set and the river flowed softly, Micah would smile and remember how far she had come. She would remember the fire, the loss, the pain, but also the hope, the strength, and the love that had carried her through it all. She had crawled through ashes and darkness, but she had found light, life, and a home.